Welcome back to the TheSadFan, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything that made you sad. We are so happy to have you guys back this week for another episode of the TheSadFan. It looks like this is probably going to drop the same week as an additional episode, so you're going to get a twofer this week. And with so much going on, the Olympics ended. We had the closing ceremonies in Milan. We had huge controversy involving the U.S. men's hockey team, even though they won the gold. We had the NBA get started with their playoff push. We have the NFL scouting combine starting out right now. I think we're on day 3 as I film this, and we've already had a standout in Sadiq out of Oregon, a workout warrior coming in and dusting all previous tight end times and just looking phenomenal, like the number 1 tight end that will be drafted. And I think he was always projected to be so, but it's very interesting and to see how well he performed. And it's interesting to see that position transform into more of a wide receiver position rather than a blocking position as the NFL continues to evolve and move forward into a advantage-disadvantage league where coaches are trying to make sure that they create matchup problems, and Sadiq at tight end can do that. But you've also got to think about the other side of this, which is how does he block? How's that going to impact the running game? But we're not going to start with the NFL Combine, and we're not going to start with the NBA's playoff push for many teams. What we're going to do here today is we're going to get started with why don't the men of the United States want to give credit where credit is due? Why are we still making dumbass jokes at the expense of women? Fun fact, in the last 2 Olympics, so that means the Olympics in Paris and the Olympics in Milan, our women outperformed our men. And you sure are happy to tout the USA's medal count. But for some reason, it's still funny to tear down the people that are doing it in women. And I don't understand it. And we're going to start with a little psychological breakdown because I think a lot of it is envy from weak men who haven't been able to really achieve what they wanted to or show the prowess that they thought they could. Or maybe when they reached a peak, maybe, leader of the free world, they still aren't liked. So why now is this happening? Again, I think it's envy, really. I think it has a lot to do with men that are ashamed of their abilities against their competitors, wanting to say, well, if I was a girl, which is so funny because a lot of you, you can't figure things out. If I was competing against those competitors, I know stop. You're just pathetic because you had an opportunity. You were competing against competitors at your level, at your ability in your sport. So these women, these athletes are literally the best in the world. Now you can't even say anything. They won gold medals against the rest of the world. When we're going to speak of the United States women's hockey team. So for you to demean them, when it took the men literally like 46 years to win a gold medal after the 80 Olympics. And that brought our nation together, which is what this should have done. This is the first time ever both the United States men and the United States women have won gold medals. And for some reason, you cannot stop for a second and acknowledge, wow, this is amazing. And the women have carried this for a long time with, I believe, 3 gold medals and just a significantly higher medal count than our United States men has. And still, you want to tear them down the one time the United States men do achieve a goal, which it sucks because I really want to be talking about how amazing that game was against Canada and what big crybabies Canada turned out to be as this game progressed. Oh, well, if you watch the game, you know who the better team was. I hate that because you weren't the better team because you lost. And the same can be said about 2010. In the 2010 Olympics, Sid the Kid had to bail you out. But let's not shift focus to the men's team. Now, we're here because a dumbass joke that's not funny was made, and then you hear a bunch of fake laughter in the background. So funny to continue to try to oppress women who have achieved a success level over and over and over again that was just now realized by the United States men. Again, I'm going to say what I said at the beginning of this segment. Over the last two Olympics, so Paris and Milan, our United States women have out-medaled our United States men. In Paris, France, our United States women went ahead and brought home 67 medals to the men's 52. In Milan, our women brought home 17 medals to the men's 12. So overall, what we're looking at is since Title IX, our women have progressed rapidly, and they are currently only about 700 medals, roughly, behind the men. All time. And think about this. They're playing catch up. Women had to play catch up to men. They had to work twice as hard to get to where the men already were. And now they are passing them, and weak-minded men can't handle that, and it's pathetic. Instead of going, hell yeah, our women are the best in the world, we find ways to diminish their success to make you feel better about yourself, which is utterly pathetic, like I said earlier. And there's no reason for it. That should be one of the greatest things about where we are from, is that everybody has an opportunity to achieve the absolute best because the resources are there. But we have gotten away from that in so many different ways, and it's all being able to be observed in this one clip where a leader, who I don't want to have anything to come back on me, so you know who I'm talking about, a leader decides, wow, we are at our highest point of joy to take a shot at people that represent his country. And I said this on the last episode, and I'm going to say it again. I don't understand it. Why do we feel the need to diminish a segment of our population, in this case, females, who literally carried our United States Olympic team over the last two Olympics? It doesn't make any sense. And what does it garner you? Or you could have been a contender, but you were born a male? Stop being so pathetic, because that's what you say. That's what you sound like. Oh, I would have been great if I wasn't born a guy. Do you understand that, like I just said, this surge of success came after Title IX. Something had to be legislated into existence for someone to get an equal opportunity. It's pathetic, but it happened. And that's something that we can hang our hat on, that at one point in time, we were progressive enough to say, hey, everyone, regardless of sex, gets an opportunity to be great. And then they went out and they proved that decision was the right one by dominating. The United States women dominate in a majority of competitions around the world, whether it be women's basketball, women's hockey, women's softball. They had to literally get rid of softball because the United States women were too good. They just brought it back. In the Olympics, they had to stop it because the US women were so dominant. Why can't we celebrate that as opposed to diminish these accomplishments? Can we just think about this for a second and say, hey, logically, which is a lot to ask of today's world, think logically. We are being pathetic. And instead of lifting this up and continuing to water this plant, we're going to poison it with terrible opinions, soaked in envy because you can't do what she can do. Why can't we cheer for her and everything she's been able to accomplish? Why can't we acknowledge how great she is? Why can't we accept that our United States women's team, as far as hockey is concerned, is the best in the world? The absolute best, okay? And they dominated these Olympics. Dominated all the way down to that final game, which was a game. A hell of a game. Both hockey games were hell of games. And instead of talking about the success of both our men and women, we are defending our women, and we are unable to celebrate our men as a nation because even on winning, we are divided. It makes no sense, and it's got to end at some point. Logic has to succeed at some point. At some point, you need a Michael Jackson this shit and look in the mirror, the man in the mirror, and realize it is you that is holding us back, and only you, with these stupid opinions. Congratulations to both Olympic teams. We're so proud of you. Congratulations to Alyssa Liu. I think I said that right. I did my best. Okay, I'm sorry. For bringing home the gold in figure skating for the first time in a very, very long time. And congratulations to all of our Olympians who went out there and performed amazingly. Now, let's stop being divided on this and figure out a way that we could cheer for our athletes as one nation and not a nation divided. All right, on to basketball. Basketball, you've heard me pound the walls and yell at the clouds about the Golden State Warriors not being where they should be. And that continues to be on display with another loss over the weekend to the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that should be better than they are as well, with Austin Rivers and LeBron James and Luka Doncic. But again, they're not that good. They are a team that looks primed to be eliminated immediately as the playoffs start. And the Warriors, again, prove who they are, which is a play-in team, because Dunleavy is an absolute atrocious GM. You're going to hear that until some action is made. I'm just going to keep yelling at the clouds how terrible Dunleavy is at being a general manager and how much he is riding the coattails as it pertains to the Warriors teams that Bob Myers put together, because this guy has done literally nothing since he's been the GM. But anyway, the Warriors lose again and continue to display the ability of a play-in team. Kristaps Porzingis, that big trade they made, didn't play due to illness. And I'm not going to knock somebody that's clearly sick, because he was doing this with Atlanta as well. But you traded for him. How are we supposed to evaluate the impact of this trade if he never plays without saying you failed again, Dunleavy? You failed again. You let down your entire fan base again. And it's like Nelly and Tim McGraw over and over again. Since Bob Myers stepped down, we are let down. And now they're going into the offseason with a ton of cap space. But what's that going to do with a lame duck GM who continues to not make any solid moves? All right, Denver looks great again. And you know what? How about the Thunder and Dort challenging one of the scariest people in the NBA with one of the scariest families in the NBA? And Dort got out of there quick, okay? But the foul on Nikola Jokic was so pathetic from Dort, literally so pathetic. I mean, the suspension was well-deserved. He deserved to be suspended after that Bush League move he pulled, backing up and trying to injure recently healthy Nikola Jokic. But as we talk about that, I think that Nuggets team is, again, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And I don't know that the Spurs, with their young core, is ready to take on a team like the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs. Now that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is back, I don't know if the San Antonio Spurs, though they have been a kryptonite to the Oklahoma City Thunder, are going to be able to take on a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder. And while Minnesota is a lot of fun to watch, Minnesota isn't going to make it past anyone big as far as the Western Conference is concerned. They're going to be a good team to watch. They're going to be fun to watch, and they're going to fail like they failed every single year. And then eventually Ant-Man's going to leave, and they're going to be left with what could have been, much like the Phoenix Suns have been left with what could have been. The Phoenix Suns have overachieved consistently all year, and so have the Houston Rockets, who added Phoenix Sun Kevin Durant in the offseason. With both of these organizations overachieving, all I can ask for is a collision course, because the storylines, if we get to watch, which it doesn't look like we will, but if we do, if all these stars align and we get to watch the Phoenix Suns take on the Houston Rockets and see, again, these storylines between Durant and Ishbia and the Suns and what they've been able to do without Durant when they couldn't make the playoffs with Kevin Durant, I mean, fireworks. I can't think of a better storyline. And I know the NBA wants to prop up this budding rivalry between the San Antonio Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder. But really, I'm just excited for the veteran, maybe because I'm getting older, going into an area where he claims he wasn't wanted and having to play the Phoenix Suns, the team that he fought to get away from, which is a trend with a lot of these athletes in this demographic, to fight to get away from teams that traded for them, to fight to get out of contracts that they signed. But what fireworks are we going to be able to see if that matchup happens? Like, they're going to be jawing at each other the whole time. And that's going to be a blast to watch. And then, of course, we have the Eastern Conference, the emergence of the Detroit Pistons, who literally had to, with Cade Cunningham, had to fight through the sewers to get to where they're at right now. And then they're followed by the Boston Celtics, who no one gave a shot, with Jaylen Brown being their all-star, losing Jason Tatum. People forgot that this team is good. Jaylen Brown is that dude. Now, their head coach is insane and continues to ride a great roster that was put together by his predecessor to the heights of an NBA championship and to where they're at right now. But maybe it is time to give Missoula some credit. Maybe it is, because I wrote them off and they're second. They're in second place. I'm not going to put any stock in the Cavaliers with James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, because neither player has ever gotten anything done in the playoffs. And the Knicks are done too already. I'm just going to put the kibosh on that. All right. I don't think, like, we like to prop up the New York Knicks every single year. Why? Because when you talk about New York sports teams, it gets ratings. But every year they're going to win. They are the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. Every year they're going to win. Every year they're going to do something. They always let us down. Now, the only thing where I think I could be wrong here is every year they have made it a step further and a step further, much like the Detroit Pistons came from the sewers to get to where they're at, which is basically 6 games ahead of anyone that's even close to them. So that would be the Boston Celtics, who are the closest. But I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't love to see the New York Knicks in the championship. I don't see an issue with that. But I think the better thing for the continued support is the heartbreak of New York. And I see that coming fast and furious as far as these NBA playoffs and this NBA push is concerned. Everyone else is just an afterthought at this point. Those are the 4 teams that we need to focus on in the East. Toronto's not going to do anything. Philadelphia is not going to do anything. Orlando sunk so much money into their team, and they're not going to do anything. The only other exciting storyline could be if somehow the Milwaukee Bucks make it to the play-in, and we have a superstar like Giannis Antetokounmpo fighting from the bottom, trying to make some noise in this year's playoffs. But that's probably not going to happen. So no fun there. All right, finally, again, we talked about the NFL draft at the beginning of this program, and we talked about how the scouting combine has really gotten off to a fast and furious start. And in a world where it's not necessarily appointment television, now it's, can I get a clip that goes viral? And we're getting a lot of clips of 40-yard dashes. That's what we're getting a lot of clips of, and maybe weight room feats of that 225-pound bench press. But outside of that, what we're really looking at is, are these players, and I'm loving the interviews, are these players that we can see translating to the next level? Now, we already had a burner out of Mississippi State at wide receiver, so that guy's just boosted up his draft stock simply by being super, super fast, and that happens every single year. But the interviews, again, is what I'm really interested in. And the reason for that, as you all know that have been tuning into this program for some time now, is Fernando Mendoza looks like he's the number 1 overall draft pick, and he's pretty locked in there. And the only way the Raiders can kind of mess this up is if they don't go with him. There's not a second choice like there was the last time the Raiders had the first overall pick. It's not a Brady Quinn, Jamarcus Russell situation this year. This year, it's take the guy, take the Heisman Trophy winner, take the guy that won the national championship. Take the guy that made Cal good before he transferred into Indiana to win Indiana a national championship, which years ago seemed unthinkable. Unthinkable that Indiana, the University of Indiana, would win anything outside of basketball. And here they are, the national champions of college football. So Fernando Mendoza is proving that this kid is incredibly smart, incredibly witty, incredibly fun to watch, and he's won me over. Like, I think he's a number 1 overall pick. I don't know, and no one really knows. But what I do know is he is smart. He's calculated. He looks like his head is in the game, like he's going to study. And anytime you get a quarterback that studies and understands reading defenses and wants to get better with every single film session, the product on the field will come with it. It will come with coaching. That work ethic, that dedication to sitting in hour after hour of film study isn't something you can coach or teach. Either players have that dedication to their craft or they do not, especially in this day and age, especially after what we just saw with Kyler Murray destroying any stock that he once had with everything that happened with his contract negotiations. Fernando Mendoza appears to be saying the right thing at the right time to launch himself into superstardom once he takes the field with the Las Vegas Raiders, or so we hope. We're also seeing some really weird things, like people forget about a guy named Aaron Donald when they are talking about Ruben Bain, and how Aaron Donald was an undersized defensive tackle, and undersized for a defensive lineman, but he came out and he did nothing but dominate for year after year after year. He anchored a defense that had no business being as good as it was, and it was as good as it was because of Aaron Donald. Well, that is going to be great for whatever team ignores the noise and drafts Ruben Bain, because Ruben Bain is going to be a phenomenal defensive player with a high motor and someone that can seriously impact the game in a variety of ways. That's the only way I would ever accept the trade of a Max Crosby, is if they can get a first-round pick high enough from that trade to pick up a Ruben Bain. Thank you so much for joining us each and every week here on The Sad Fan. We will see you next time.
Back to the block, I'm scamming. Back in the shop, I'm scamming. Get it off a dummy, I'm scamming. Always get money, I'm scamming.